Thank you all so much for joining and welcome. We are now here for Giving Tuesday 2021, and our goal is to raise $20,000 in 24 hours with 100% going to student scholarships. So if you want to add to that, thank you for joining. The link is going to be available for you to do so. I think we'll just go ahead and get started. Thank you again, everyone that is here. And I'm going to start with the first question. As you know, we're going to round robin and you're going to kind of answer for your particular, your center and your program, and feel free to introduce yourselves, talk about whatever other components of your journey that you would like to. So the first question is, why did you choose your particular center and program for your study abroad journey? Why was studying abroad important to your future goals? Maybe Noelia, can we start with you?
Yeah, hi everyone, my name is Noelia Ribe. I am from Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm studying in Madrid through the IES Madrid engineering program. For me, Spain had always been a place that I wanted to visit, and Madrid was one of the few programs offered through my university for the engineering students. And this IES program offered courses through a local university here in Madrid, which is something that I was really looking forward to, just meeting local Spanish students and fully immersing myself to get that experience at the university here. I also chose this program because of how organized everything was. They have free trips to surrounding cities in Spain. They have activities planned with Spanish students, and they also offer a lot of resources to get through your university courses. For me, studying abroad was important because not only would it help me grow personally and socially, but it would also help me gain like a different cultural knowledge and create those international connections, which could benefit me in the future. I also know how like underrepresented minorities in the STEM field are, especially abroad. So it's really important for me to help break those barriers and encourage other students who can relate to pursue an education abroad and show them that it is possible, because sometimes even I can't believe that I'm here, and I am.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think in my excitement to hear about your story, which I'm so happy to hear about, and how you got where you are, I also forgot to introduce myself, but part of what you just shared is really connected to my journey in studying abroad in IES Abroad Granada in 2016. That representation component of like wanting to be representative, especially being in STEM, is so important. And like, especially being a woman, like that's also another component of that intersectional identity that gets so, it's so difficult to see that. So I'm glad that you are where you are and you're studying what you're studying and able to interact with students and get what you wanted out of your journey. I completely chose to study in Spain because the Cheetah Girls studied and they went abroad in their first movie, and in the second movie, I think. Yeah, the second one, and I wanted to go to Barcelona because of that, but I wound up in Granada because I loved how close and close-knit and the culture is and how small the program was. I wanted that intimacy in my program instead of something that was bigger. So we all have our different reasons for choosing our center and like what that journey inspired in us. But thank you so much for sharing that. And even now here, being now the IES Abroad brand coordinator, coming back and working with IES 5 years later, I find that my journey has been so rewarding, and I can see the ways that it can connect to yours as well. I think we can shift now to Jose. Would you go next?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Jose, and I'm originally from Colombia. I was born there and then moved to Indiana when I was 10. And I chose the Milan Fashion and Apparel Merchandising program because I really wanted to be surrounded by a fast-paced environment that also had people who had a passion for fashion as much as I do. And it was really crazy because like Milan is like the epicenter of fashion, and to be here is like really a dream come true. And I think that like studying abroad was important to my future goals because I feel like it has allowed me to like in a way like lose myself and like find myself again, because I feel like at the start of every program everyone's going to feel like lost and like kind of like your identity like kind of stripped away. So like it was really an interesting process to like refine myself again, and like it just felt like empowering for me to like be in a city that although is very different from what I'm used to, it has really like opened my eyes to my future goals and what I really want to be.
Yeah, I love that too. I love that you said that you could go to Milan and you can't, like, all of us are saying that we couldn't even believe that we were and are where we were. Um, and just seeing how it influences your identity and helps you refine your identity, like that's amazing. You're going to come from it with so much, and I'm sure you've already gathered so much so far. And you never really know the full impacts of your study abroad experience in the moment, but you can start to kind of gather like bits and pieces, and then later you see like what those bits and pieces add up to be. Sometimes it takes like a few months after your time in your program and you're at your center, and other times it's, like in my case, years later down the line. But it's beautiful that you all are still learning right now different parts of yourselves that you can show the world and share with yourself later down the line. Can we shift to Krista?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Krista. I'm originally from Wisconsin, but I'm studying here in Dublin, Ireland. And I chose to go to Dublin just because of the IES Writers Program. It just seemed like an incredible like opportunity, and I'm a creative writing major. And well, I have studied like, American literature and British literature before in school, but there hasn't really been a focus on Irish literature, and that was something that I wanted to learn more about. And also, a lot of people from my school have gone on the writers program before and highly recommended it to me. So that's kind of how I learned about it. And in terms of like why this is like so relevant to my like future goals, I think that being here really taught me a lot more about like what I want to do after I graduate, and also how to go about that. So in terms of like getting my writing published, I learned more about like the journalism field. And I think also just like I definitely gained like more of a sense of independence, just like being like self-sufficient, living on my own, cooking, like buying all the groceries, all that stuff that I like hadn't done before at my school.
So, Krista, one of the things that you said, I was a creative writing and English double major in undergrad, and I can definitely see why going and studying writing in a place as beautiful as Dublin would be like an amazing experience. But one of the things I wanted to point out too from what you said is that reminding you all that this is your network. This is a huge part of your network, and that IES is always here to support you beyond this journey here, in your center and at your program, but also years down the line. So remember to connect, and I would love to connect with you too in regards to writing and everything that you want to do with your journey going forward. I think that is amazing that you're able to do that and fulfill that. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. And RJ, we will go to you next.
Hi, so my name is RJ Walters-Dorchak. I use he, series pronouns. I am from the Denver area in Colorado. I go to CU Boulder, and I am currently studying abroad in Nantes, France. If you've never heard of it, I understand. I had never heard of it. It is a city near the Breton Peninsula, so the very western pointy bit of France. It's about 2 hours from Paris. So anyway, I chose this center. So this center, I think, is a little unique, honestly. It is a French immersion program, and it's uniquely a French immersion program. So I study French literature, and I really enjoy speaking French. And so it was just kind of a natural fit to do a program where I would be immersed in French language and culture. And that was really the big motivation for choosing this program. And yeah, I think I live with a host family as well. And that really builds like a really rounded aspect to the program. So my entire life, aside from being with my friends outside of school, is in French. Everything I do, my host family speaks no English. So it's just that was one thing that I really was looking forward to, is being able to really hone those skills and come back closer to bilingual, or as close to bilingual as I could. And I suppose talking about goals for the future, like I said, I study French literature. I also work as an event planner, and I really want to work in cultural events and in cultural cultural institutions and management and kind of that general aspect of things. And so being able to really live a cross-cultural moment for 4 months has been a really beneficial piece of the puzzle, I suppose. And also giving me the experience to travel a bit, to maybe visit some towns that I was looking at going to grad school in France or anywhere else, and really being able to have experiences at a local university, living in a neighborhood with a host family, building connections in this city, and really being able to exist here. And yeah, anyway, that's kind of the big important for my future part of that. Yeah, I think that's it.
Sounds like you're planting seeds for things to harvest later. So that's really beautiful, especially since you know what you want to do, you know where you want to do it. So that's a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing. I will go ahead to the next question, which is, what has been your biggest moment of joy while abroad and your biggest moment of growth? And anyone can start, whoever wants to start can start.
I can go first. So I think I don't think I could say that there was one moment of joy. Actually, I think it was seeing the Eiffel Tower lit up at night for the first time, because it's one of those things that like just kind of lives in my brain. That was like, this isn't real, this isn't a thing. But I was seeing the Eiffel Tower lit up at night for the first time. It was very exciting. But I think the biggest thing with joy for me is I have made so many incredible friends so incredibly quickly, especially with this program. It's quite small, so we're always together. So it was that for me is anytime that I'm with them, being able to really experience where we are, and it's really spending time with them and and building those relationships. That is what brings me the most joy. And I'd say my biggest moment of growth is I came here alone. There's no one from my institution. I didn't know anyone, nothing. So being able to really figure out what's going on that quickly, and like be able to take all of my courses in French, take all of my, like live my whole life and doing all of that, I think that to me has been the big moment of growth and like building a good foundation of independence abroad. So I do believe that. Yeah, that's me.
I love to hear you use the word foundation. That's something that will follow you later down the line too. So I'm actually just going to call on you all so that I can make sure we all grab each other. So Jose, you can go second again.
So I think like there's so many moments. So like this is a really hard question for me, but I think like the first time that I was like truly like in awe of like just like everything around me was like that first week of Fashion Week in Milan. And it was just so interesting because like I don't think I've ever been like around so many people like making statements of what they wear. I feel like fashion is like really conversational. Like a lot of the things you like put on your body really say a lot about who you are. So like just being surrounded by so many different versions of that was like really monumental for me. And as far as like biggest moment of growth, I think is like probably like enjoying my own company. Like I think I've been like very independent since I was little. And like I think like one of like my favorite things to do is like just go out on the town and explore by myself, like get a coffee. Like those are the days that like you really feel like you're living life like in the moment. Like I love like the people that I've met and like I love hanging out with them too, but like being able to like be so independent that like I'm able to enjoy my own company and like I don't feel weird like going to a restaurant by myself has just like been a really big growth for me, and like I see it as a strength now.
That's 100% a strength. It's so funny you say that too, because I just went on a solo trip for a week to Hawaii, and I was able to go on that trip, I realized, because I studied abroad and spent so much time by myself. So I was able to enjoy my own company and then feel affirmed when I went and traveled by myself somewhere else. There's no one way to have your study abroad journey and your study abroad experience. So some people might find that they stay with their friend groups and other people might find that they stay to themselves, but it's your individual journey and your individual experience. So You're just pulling from it what works for you and what works for what you're going to do. Thank you so much for sharing. Noelia, can you go next?
Yeah, so I agree. I'd say there's been so many moments of joy, but I'd say one of my biggest ones was probably about a month into my time here, when I realized how fast I was adapting to the lifestyle here in Madrid. Before coming, I had never used the metro. All the walking I did in a day here is probably how much I do in a month back home. All the eating schedules, getting around without getting lost, the slang that was unfamiliar when I got here, everything just started like slowly becoming part of my everyday life. And I was like really happy to know I was fully immersing myself into this new culture, and learning along the way, and also just loving this place so much that made me realize that this could potentially be a place I'd want to live in the future. One of my biggest moments of growth was probably realizing it's similar to theirs, that doing things on your own is fine, and having to rely on or wait for others could sometimes hold you back from achieving certain things that you want. For me, the first 2 weeks here, I didn't really know anyone. And I was afraid to just go out and explore Madrid alone until I realized that I wasn't in Spain for long. So I had to take advantage of that time that I am here. So I booked a trip to Barcelona alone. I had an amazing time and met some great people out there. I started going to parks, restaurants. I got familiar with the Madrid area. And even though I did eventually find my group of friends, my advice would be to just don't be afraid to do things alone, because sometimes all you need is you, and that's completely fine.
That's so true. Thank you so much for sharing. I love that you said that you have your advice that you would give to students going forward, and that was a question that I'm going to ask you as well after the next question. But thank you for that piece too. And Krista, we'll go ahead to you.
Yeah, kind of how everyone else was saying. I think that I don't really think I can like narrow down one biggest moment of joy, but I've just loved being able to travel throughout Dublin and throughout Ireland, like not only by myself, but also with some like amazing friends that I've made while I'm here. My favorite trip that I've taken has probably been to see the Cliffs of Moher in Galway. That's actually the picture that's behind me. I was there on like the most beautiful and clear day because it's usually really foggy, and I was able to take like amazing pictures and just be by the ocean, which is, I don't know, I'm used to like being around like lots of lakes in the Midwest. So just being at the ocean in general is just like very exciting for me. Let's see. And then I guess my biggest moment of growth is probably just me just like being more independent and just kind of navigating a city by myself. Like again, like using public transport, getting places, and also just like having more independence being away from my family. Because at home I live about like a 4-hour drive away from them at my school, but this is like, you know, a 7 or 8 hour plane ride away. So yeah, it was definitely, I definitely felt like more independent being able to like do this on my own.
Definitely makes you feel capable of handling the world because you know you kind of have to. You're in a space where you have to figure out yourself and embrace, like Jose said, that identity, that new identity that you're able to create. So thank you for that. The next question, which I think is a huge part of how it inevitably how we are all here, is what has your scholarship meant to you so far, and what has it enabled you to do while abroad? Oh, I'm supposed to call on you, sorry. Noelia, can we start with you this time?
Yeah, so for me, growing up, studying abroad was always a dream of mine, but it was something that I stereotyped as only possible to those with higher income backgrounds, which kind of held me back from even looking into it once I got to college, until I realized that there's so much money available out there that could make this possible for me if I really wanted it. And that's exactly what I did. I spent all my spring semester balancing scholarship applications and my classes, which definitely paid off at the end. I was really worried I wouldn't be able to pay the program cost, so I was constantly just checking my emails for updates until I finally started receiving notifications and the amount starting adding up to the cost, which is something that I am really extremely thankful for, because I know without these scholarships, I probably wouldn't be where I am now.
Yeah, the scholarships and the giving really does make it so that you can impact not only your life, but the lives of other people from that. So I think that it's tremendously important. And you're right, like there's so many of us who probably didn't even think it was a reality until we were able to see that there is money out there that people have given so that we can not just make the Cheetah Girls a movie, but become a Cheetah Girl. So we can actually have our time in the places that we want to go to. RJ, you're laughing so hard at my Cheetah Girls. You can go next since you're laughing at me.
No, I'm not laughing. I love the Cheetah Girls, like fully and completely. I love it so much. And when you said Cheetah Girls, I was like, wait, oh my God, that's so true.
There's so
I'm
many
in
people that
France, but
relate to that.
still.
Yeah, there's so many
But like
people that
I'm in
relate to
France,
that.
but like it still
It's
fits.
the same, yeah.
Goodness. So yeah, scholarships. I am so grateful because I very similarly was once I started looking at how much it cost to make it happen, I was very skeptical of my ability to do it. And scholarships, like without scholarships, I wouldn't be able to be here. Um, I'm kind of a different situation, like school wise. I pay anyway, where I go to school, I pay a lot more to come abroad. And so like being able to make up, I think it like twice as much as what a normal semester would cost for me. So like being able to make up most of that gap with scholarships was incredibly helpful, wonderful. I'm incredibly grateful. And I really wouldn't be able to do any of the things that I'm doing here without that. Like I would not be able to be here. And I'm incredibly grateful and count myself quite fortunate that I was able to access that money to make this a reality, to make the Cheetah Girls a reality.
Well, it's interesting because the actual reality is without the scholarships, we wouldn't have this kind of life. Like we literally would not even be on this path. We would be on a completely different path and doing who knows what with our home institutions, which isn't a horrible thing. But now you know your life has expanded, your world has expanded, and your capacity for joy has expanded from it. So you know, being grateful for that and in that way. Krista, can you go next?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, again, this scholarship was like really beneficial for me because it allowed me to come abroad without having to stress so much about like, you know, financial concerns. And instead I've just been able to just like have a great time and make these incredible experiences and learn so much without like having that burden of worrying about costs and things. And also when I get back home, I'll be graduating early. So I'll be like entering the working world, like probably sometime in January. So it's nice to know that I still do have some savings that I can use like to support myself and to kind of get going in like the working world.
Oh, thank you. I know that sometimes, you know, when we talk about money, sometimes it can be a weird or uncomfortable conversation for some people, depending on your background. But it's also nice to know that this has given you an advantage in a way to be able to enter the world in the way that you feel works for you and for what you want for your future. So that's a great thing. And Jose, last but not least.
So I'm very like grateful because I feel like before learning about the scholarship opportunities, I thought it was just a dream, and like it just shows that like anything is possible, like if you put your mind to it. So like being able to study abroad and like not have that constant worry over my head of like, am I gonna be able to afford this, or like worrying about like when the next time like I have to eat, like if I have enough money for that. Like it has been very important for me to like be abroad and like live in the moment and like not have those constant worries over my head. And like where I come from, like originally like from Colombia, like those dreams are like way more like unattainable. So like being able to like live in the US and then have those opportunities there for you, like just shows that like if you look for help, you'll like find it. So like just sticking to like your dreams and making sure they become a reality has been very eye-opening, because this would be something like that not a lot of people will be able to like accomplish or get to. So it just shows that like you have to be thankful, but like never forget where you come from. And remember that like a lot of opportunities really change your life in the most like positive ways.
Okay, it sounds like what you're speaking on too is the beauty of access that comes from, having like financial support, like that giving you access to being able to have a different lifestyle, a different experience than what you might have at home or what generations previously might not have had. Now you're able to be that generation and that individual that accesses these things and then opens the door for the people behind you. So that's so important. And we wouldn't be able to have that access without our scholarships, to give us these opportunities to be abroad. But since you had a beautiful motivational speaker flow going on there, I think I'm going to start the next question with you. What is one piece of advice you would give to students planning on studying abroad, especially those who are in the planning process right now? Like as you were going through everything and getting ready to go abroad, what's something that you, looking back now, you would say to a student to help them out with their journey?
I would say like the biggest advice I would give is maybe that like comfort zones are like probably the worst ways to like study abroad. Like having a comfort zone, like in the beginning, like I definitely had one where I would not like experience like the Italian food and like only wanted American food. It was just very hard to adapt to. But like staying in that comfort zone, like just an example of like food, like it didn't allow me to experience new things. And I feel like once I got out of that comfort zone, like the first few weeks, which were like awkward and like just like very frustrating, after I get out of that comfort zone, like you just start to change, and like it just shows you that like not all change is bad. Because I feel like if I were to stay in my comfort zone while abroad, which some people do, like they don't really want to adjust or adapt to like the way of life in different places, it just shows that like you're not ready for change. And I feel like change is like what really has made me grow personally. So I think like my biggest piece of advice is that like if you travel abroad, you have to get out of your comfort zone while you're here. And I feel like just applying to study abroad, like that's like the first step of like getting out of your comfort zone. But like once you're actually here, it becomes so hard because adapting is like a really long process, and like it takes weeks or it could take months. So yeah, that was mine.
I think that's a great answer. And I think, again, emphasis on the fact that everyone's journey is going to be different. Your study abroad journey, like you said, takes weeks or takes months. And what makes you uncomfortable might be something that doesn't make someone else uncomfortable. So everyone's comfort zone is going to be different and unique for the individual. Like food could be someone's, and then travel or talking to people could be someone else's, or speaking in the language within their, their host country could be another space of not being comfortable. But encouraging to push out of your comfort zone helps expand your world in a great way. So thank you for sharing that. I think I'll go with RJ next. Kind of trying to mix up the order here.
Yeah, I think my biggest, there's so many things that I could give advice on at this moment, but I think the biggest one that comes to mind is like kind of two things that are one, I promise. The biggest thing is like, take advantage of every opportunity that you have. I have gotten to do a lot of really wild things that I never thought I would be able to do just because I kind of said yes to it. I went to a baking expo. I went to a wine salon, which is like a place where a bunch of wine makers and importers come together and you try a bunch of wine and you can buy bottles. Never thought I would go to something like that in my life. Definitely did. There's just a lot of really interesting things that I've been able to do just because I kind of threw caution to the wind for a minute and just said, yes, might as well. With that said, also don't try to do everything. Take time for yourself and like recognize that it's okay, number one, to not be okay if you're not. And it's also okay to just stay wherever you are. I have not seen much of France. I've not seen much of Europe, but I've seen a lot of Nantes and I've seen a lot of the region around it. And that for me has been incredibly beneficial because I get to be a part of where I live and I get to see where I live and what I do. So while yes, like profiter is what the French would say. Profite, profite, profite. Do as much as do as much as you can. Just recognize as well that Rome was not built in a day. You can't do it all, but just explore where you are, and that's okay. If that's what you do, that's okay. And yeah, I guess that was a bit really long-winded answer, but thank you.
No, not long-winded at all. Thank you for sharing. That it's so important to say that because you chose the place that you chose to go to for a reason. So you want to fully immerse yourself in that experience and then be able to say yes to the things that you wouldn't have anticipated yourself saying yes to before. But also know that you don't have to be overwhelmed. And it is very easy to get overwhelmed with the amount of things that you could do while you're abroad. And it's also very easy to get kind of lost in the idea that the person and the version and even the habits or health that you had while you were in the US don't follow you to where you go, or they do follow you and you realize like, I thought I was going to be my best self. And then it's like, how do I navigate that I'm still this version of me and I'm still working it out? And just that simply comes from just knowing that you're human. So what you just said is a perfect way of finding that balance to know that, hey, we're still humans. We're still figuring it out. And we can only take it one day at a time. Next, Noelia, please.
I would say my biggest advice would be to don't be afraid to say yes and take advantage of every opportunity you get when it comes to experiencing new things, whether it's taking a spontaneous weekend trip or just trying unusual foods or making local friends, even if you're not fluent in their language. Personally, I know at the beginning it can be hard to step out of your comfort zone, but don't limit yourself, and trust me, it will make your time abroad so much more worth it. You are abroad to discover new things, new cultures, so don't be afraid of change, and take advantage of it, and I guarantee you'll have an amazing time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for emphasizing the taking advantage of it again and, just knowing that you'll experience so many different new things. Krista, we will finish with you, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, my advice was going to be similar to what everyone else had said. But yeah, again, I think that, yeah, just taking advantage of as many opportunities as you can, but obviously like within reason. Like about every week, my professors have recommended different events. Like there'll be like a poetry reading this night or like a music event this night. And so I've just been going to as many that I like could within reason. And I've just had such a good time. And I feel like in doing so, I've learned so much more about Irish culture. And actually, my favorite trip that I have gone on so far was actually for a class that I wasn't in, but the professor, he just invited me to tag along. And so I didn't really know anyone in the class, but I ended up going and I ended up having an incredible time. And I'd also recommend trying to meet like some locals who aren't necessarily in your study abroad program, just so that you can like meet people with different perspectives and also see more parts of the city than maybe you and like other Americans would have seen.
Thank you. There's nothing wrong with that repetition, by the way. It's just, it being consistent across the board is just emphasis on the fact that that's a huge part of the experience for future students or for prospective students. I think that I saw you all nod when she mentioned meeting people outside of your program. And yes, I think that is also an amazing thing to do, because don't forget there's other humans out there. There's other people, even if you might not speak the language fluently, there's other people that you can still learn from or hear their stories. Or even if you're like writing something down and you're kind of going through the process of struggling to connect or struggling to communicate, like you're still pushing into the struggle, as Jose would say, getting out of your comfort zone. And then you're going to learn again from that. So there's fun in that too. You can make it a fun kind of engagement, and it could be a person in a bakery or a coffee shop as opposed to someone right on the street that you don't know how to interact with. But thank you so much for your answering these previous questions. I have now the final question for our time together today, which is, what has been your biggest takeaway from your experience thus far, now that it's almost over? Not to sound sad, it's all right. That's my cue to pick someone. RJ, can you go again?
Yeah, oh my goodness, what's my biggest takeaway? I almost instinctively said to take public transit more, but I feel like that's a bit of a cop-out answer. But that is one, to take public transit more. But I think my biggest takeaway is, I think is a bit similar to what we've all just said. I think doing things that I would not normally do, pushing myself out of like the normal routine. I had said to someone recently that like I want to take day trips from Denver, like in Boulder and just where I am, because I do that all the time here. And I'm like, why have I never done that before when I have the ability to do it, even frankly easier? So I think, yeah, just doing things I would not have normally done before and like pushing myself out of the normal routine that I had at home. I think that has definitely shifted and changed. And yeah, doing things out of the norm, I would say, doing things, changing the way that I do things, going on day trips, taking the bus, and finding ways to find something new, saying yes to something new that I wouldn't normally say yes to at home.
I love that one. I think that there's going to be things that you're going to want to bring back home that maybe you find that like it doesn't fit exactly. Like I can't take a siesta every day. I can't do that. I want to, but I would love to have a nap in the middle of the day after I eat my lunch, but it's not a thing in America. Okay. So there's going to be things that you want to bring that might not fit, but there's things that you want to bring that absolutely do fit. So continue to look for that in your time that's, you know, remaining. Like what things can I bring back that I loved so much that I don't want to let go of? So thank you so much for sharing that. Jose, I am going to pop to you next.
So like I had wrote out an answer, but since you just said something, it just like completely changed my answer. So I'm just gonna say what I just thought about. So like I remember going out, like this was like the first few weeks of the study abroad experience, and I remember I went out with a group of us in the program, and then a group of locals that we have met. And I just remember like in a moment, like we all were just laughing, and like even though we literally could not communicate, like because we had different languages, I saw that we all shared like a laugh and like could find something that was funny and like communicate in that way. So like although my experience is almost over, it's all like taught me that like language like can really be shared with anyone, like no matter what. And like it was just kind of like beautiful, like realizing that in the moment, like even though we literally cannot understand each other, we all know that like something is like still funny. So I think that was my biggest takeaway, is that like you can talk to anyone, and like in a way you might see a connection that you guys have, no matter if you guys can't understand each other. So I think like just like being more of like a risk taker, and like being able to like meet locals and like still communicate with each other was my biggest lesson. So I want to like start talking to anyone, like no matter if we can't communicate properly because we don't have the same language, but like still being open to anyone that like, comes into my life. So yeah.
I want to say I appreciate you, you know, kind of diverting from what you had already had planned to say and to share that experience, because there's so much of like there's so much in that story that I don't know if everyone has experienced that, but like I definitely did while I was abroad. But for me, it was laughter for sure, like noticing laughter being universal. So like laughter and love are universal, even if the language in between might not be. You're still trying to figure out, you know, how do I communicate this in the way that makes sense to this person? But you know, like, hey, we're both laughing. Hey, we're both, you know, loving each other in this space. And so I think that was an amazing thing to note on. So thank you so much for that takeaway. Like that's forever important. Krista, next.
Yeah, so I think that like before I came on this trip, I think largely due to like how and where I was raised, I had kind of more of like an American-centric view of the world. And I think that like going somewhere that wasn't the US and like just being immersed in new cultures and perspective has like really opened my eyes to like that there's a lot more to the world than just the US. And it's definitely made me want to go and explore like more of the world.
Yeah, that you do realize like you're not the only person on the planet in a way. I know that sounds silly, but it's almost like you realize there's so much more out there that you can go and see and do. And you just feel, I think you just feel more capable. I will hope you feel more capable. I hope you all feel capable. And if you don't, let us know how we can help you feel more empowered and capable. Noelia, we'll go with you now.
I would say my biggest takeaway is to always be more open-minded. I know sometimes we think if it's not our way, then it's just wrong or it's strange. And I thought I would be a bit more open-minded when I got here, but I was surprised at how many times I would question things or just assume they were strange. But then I realized just because things are different, it doesn't mean that they're wrong. And I could be missing out on a lot for being so close-minded. So that definitely changed my perspective, and I started trying new things to make this trip more enjoyable. And it's something that I can use when I get back home or when I travel to other places.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think one thing that you just said that may come to mind for me, just to leave you all with too, is to have grace with yourselves, to be gentle with yourselves, have patience with yourselves as you are realizing that you had to expand your mind or open your mind. Like it's a human thing. Again, remember, you're human beings, you're not, robots. It's human to kind of wonder like, this is different from what I'm used to. And to feel a little bit opposed to it at first. Some people can jump into that easily and other people have a little bit of a harder time doing that. So the fact that you even applied to study abroad, that you even got there, that you've been going through being there this entire time and learning what you have been learning is an amazing thing and is something that you should be proud of in and of itself. So remember to have grace with the remainder of your journey, grace when you return, and to be patient with the fact that you're going to come back and readjust. And everything is a process day by day. So thank you so much for answering all of those questions. Thank you all for your attentiveness, for your authenticity, for your stories. I am going to go ahead and introduce Jennifer now. Jennifer is going to do a direct ask now. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here. I'll shift to you.
Hey, welcome. I'm Jennifer Jerzyk. I studied with IES in Nantes and now work in the Alumni Relations Office in the Chicago office. So first of all, thank you to you all for sharing your thoughts and encouragement about study abroad. You will be joining the ranks of over 160,000 IES alums when you finish your programs. And I know for those who are watching live and who will watch this going forward that you are not saying anything new to IES alumni. We've all been there and had those same thoughts and feelings. So thank you so much for sharing all of that today. Ashley, my colleague here in Chicago, Noelia, RJ, Krista, and Jose, we really appreciate your being with us here on Giving Tuesday. We have been having a ton of fun watching gifts come in during this past hour. We're well on our way to raising $20,000, and 100% of that goes to scholarships. And I have the pleasure of announcing that we have a $10,000 match. So anyone who is making a gift today, their gift is going to be matched with that $10,000 one for one. So you can double the impact of your gift just by making a gift today on Giving Tuesday. And so with that, I'll say thank you again for listening and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.